In 1939, the Dade County Bar Association decided it was time to do something about the unmet legal needs of the poor in Miami. A committee was organized and began the weekly practice of publishing the names of bar members who were to handle and complete legal work assigned to them without compensation. In time, a budget was allocated to hire one full-time attorney and a secretary to handle all cases qualifying for legal aid. And for the next 45 years, despite the changing landscape of Miami, legal aid remained a small 1 to 2 person operation.
We were a very small office with 2 attorneys, and we used to handle very simple family cases, divorces, very, very simple.
However, in 1986, all that was about to change when an enthusiastic matrimonial lawyer named Sharon was appointed as director.
My understanding was that there was a job available. They hadn't had a job available as for the director for many years, and a good friend of mine happened to be on the selection committee and said, "You know, I've read this job description and I swear it sounds just like you. This might be something that fits you perfectly." And I applied like a great number of people did and was fortunate enough that I was selected.
And so began 28 years of modernization, expansion, and the initiation of programs designed to better society and serve the legal needs of the impoverished in our community.
It's almost funny to think back that the big modernization, the first thing I did was get Selectric typewriters. We had folks with the layers upon layers of carbon paper, and we just weren't moving paper. We weren't as productive as we needed to be. So the first form of modernization was the actual physical equipment that we were using in the office.
Oh, it definitely modernized over the years. As a matter of fact, well, she used to typewriter, but she was, of course, interested in getting computers, because we had the old-fashioned typewriters. So we went from the old-fashioned typewriters, and the next thing we knew, she got us computers. So that enhanced our ability to get cases done faster, get the pleadings out, the motions, and to follow up faster.
We didn't have a lot of money, so we couldn't come in and buy all new furniture. So we had to prioritize what's important. What was important is to process cases and serve people, as many as we can, as expeditiously and efficiently as we can.
Sharon's greatest contribution to legal aid is the fact that she has a passion and energy to make sure that the job gets done. And the job could be representing a client, the job could be making sure her staff gets the work done, the job could be making sure that the doors downstairs are open, or that the staff is able to welcome people, or it could be that she's going to be calling the Dade County Bar President or a county commissioner or a bar foundation person and saying, "I need more money, I need to get something done." Her asset has always been focusing on helping legal aid do its job better.
With better technology allowing for a more productive legal aid staff, Sharon then set her sights on developing a system to incentivize lawyers in the community to share the growing pro bono workload.
The Dade County Bar Association already had a commitment to this notion of lawyers giving back their talent and their abilities for free to those who couldn't afford them. And we had a program called the Public Interest Law Bank. Made no sense to anybody. What is a public interest law bank? So shortly after I took over, we changed the name to Volunteer Lawyers. At least everybody understood what we were talking about. When we had Hurricane Andrew in this community, there was created extraordinary legal needs by thousands and thousands of people. And at that point, we had a bar president who coined the phrase, "put something back." She said, "We need our lawyers to put something back." And at that point, we decided, you know, that makes sense. And we renamed Volunteer Lawyers the Put Something Back program. And it grew tremendously during that effort. There were many, many, many thousands of lawyers that donated their services, not only to folks in South Dade, but folks that were affected by the hurricane all over the community. And we've kept with that name ever since. It fit.
Well, the Put Something Back program is valuable to the communities because it's the community of individuals who are not represented. It's the community of attorneys who have an opportunity to make a contribution to others rather than to themselves or to their clients or to their firm. And it's a contribution to the court system because we're then able to have these cases who are then represented by competent attorneys to go through the system so there can be a true day in court for the parties.
But sometimes an attorney wasn't necessarily needed. Always eager to find the most efficient way to help as many as possible, Legal Aid created a series of self-help packets designed to guide individuals through relatively simple legal matters that didn't warrant an attorney but would be difficult to navigate on their own.
They would buy a packet, and the packet would have all the forms that they needed, and they would fill them out, and then they would bring them back to us, and we would review them, make sure everything was filled out correctly. Not giving them legal advice, mind you, but make sure that the forms were filled out correctly and they had the appropriate forms and that they had all of the forms filled out. And we then notarized them and made them copies, and then they went to go file them.
Those of us in the family division, as we saw these forms being utilized, we then knew that it made the case go through the system more efficiently. And people could perhaps be doing things correctly rather than having a hearing, something isn't right. What then transpired from that was that we would then bring it into the courthouse formally and have this joint venture between Legal Aid and the court system where we would have a brick and mortar self-help project so that people could come into a courthouse, go to a floor, actually be welcomed, have a packet that was available for them, and then stamp that as approved so they could come back to the civil division or the family division and file their papers and move on through the system.
After establishing avenues to effectively handle relatively simple legal matters, Legal Aid pushed itself to the other end of the spectrum when it took on the complex issue of domestic violence.
We developed within Legal Aid one of the first departments where we had highly trained, specialized attorneys accustomed to working with victims of violence and sexual assault. And we've embedded them in our organization and still to this day have an entire department of experts who not only participate still in policy, procedure, protocols to help victims, but deliver direct services to victims of violence and have since the early 1990s, and we're very, very proud of that.
Sharon Langer has done such a wonderful job ever since she became involved with Legal Aid in terms of helping to develop the domestic violence court. We were the first domestic violence court in the country and are still seen as a leader. If it weren't for somebody like Sharon and the others who put the time and effort into realizing that domestic violence is a huge problem in our community that needs resources and time and energy, there would be millions and millions of people who would be suffering domestic abuse and thousands and thousands and thousands of people who would no longer be walking. They wouldn't be alive anymore. Legal Aid saves lives, Legal Aid saves souls, and Legal Aid saves families.
To me, it's a law firm with heart. It's a law firm with passion. They're the gold standard for what needs to be done to assist people who do not have the income to participate in the justice system.
And since at the center of every Legal Aid case is a child, their commitment to family law and child advocacy has and always will be paramount.
I would say that Sharon's commitment to representing families in the family law court, throughout the family law court, is been a life passion for her, certainly as long as I've known her. And in particular, this ties in with the issue regarding children, because we all know that children are sort of the helpless ones in these family disputes. And Sharon is always looking for ways to have families become better than they were when they first came into court. Or I should say it another way, is to have families leave the court system better than when they came in.
In 2014, after 28 years of service, Sharon Langer announced her retirement from Legal Aid. And though her leadership will be greatly missed, she is leaving the agency in excellent condition and in capable hands to ensure continued success.
She is a profoundly good soul. She is self-deprecating. She's so modest. It's almost as if she doesn't have an ego. It's all about helping others. She doesn't want credit. She often does things anonymously so that no one knows it's her. As long as she does everything she possibly can to help the people in our community who need the help the most, and for no credit whatsoever, because she's a profoundly good soul.
If one would believe my best achievement or my best skill is that I have been able to assemble the most extraordinary team of people, and I truly believe that. I believe that Dade Legal Aid has an extraordinary team, both lawyer and non-lawyer, and that all the successes we have are because of that team. It is certainly not a one-person show. It's a well-oiled machine with many moving parts, and each and every individual that works here plays a role in that. And if any skill I have, I think I have a skill for identifying talent and then coercing them to come work here, and then hopefully, and many times I've been successful, keeping them here for the long run. So that's been my secret to success, getting the best people and keeping them.